quickly a fire can grow in intensity and challenge the life safety of the people that are in the building. Much less the fact that possessions and the building itself is going to be challenged. We talk about new construction materials that are out there, lightweight construction, that puts new challenges to the fire service these days. So we're going to talk about what we have to do here to ensure that doesn't happen. To start with, in 1973 there was a watershed report that came out called America Burning. An America Burning report came out and identified 4 features that have to be done in order for a family to be safe in their home. The reason that report came out was because President Nixon, 25 years after President Truman identified that we have a problem in this country with people dying in fires, in 1947, 12,000 people a year were dying in fires. I'm sorry, it was more than that. It was 15,000. In 1972, it was 12,000. President Nixon said, let's get something accomplished here so that we can ensure the safety of our citizens in this country. So the report came out and it said that there's 4 elements that we need to accomplish. The first is, let's do fire prevention. Let's try to educate our country in the fire prevention activities. So how do they do that? What they have to do is go through every room of the house, garage, attic space, and also the basement to ensure that any life-challenging potential fire is eliminated. Or let's try to reduce it to start with. So you saw after 1973 when that report came out that the fire service got more actively involved in fire safety education. They assigned people to that role. Now we go through every room of the house. We've got fire potential in the basement with the water heater, with the furnace, with activities that we can put things too close. Remove them 3 feet from there at least so we don't have that problem. We get on the first floor, we got the kitchen, we got a fireplace in the living room, we've got bedrooms, we've got candles, we've got all kinds of things that can start fires. Now if we reduce that opportunity of having a fire, we don't have to worry about the outcome. But if we've done everything we can, and in 2008, everybody that practices fire safety 24 hours a day, every day of the year, has 1 more day to practice it. February 29th happened this year, and if you were practicing, we lost about 29 people on February 29th. If that extra day we had, people that didn't practice it for that 24 hours. So if we practice it and we have a fire, we need to have early warning. So we put smoke alarms in our building. They used to call them smoke detectors, but they also detected spiders, steam, and other things, that cobwebs that got into the smoke alarms. So a smoke detector, if it's not being maintained with an alarm that has a battery in it that's functional, that's been changed twice a year, bring forward, fall back, put it in those 2 times a year, you got yourself a battery that's going to be probable functioning for you. You got to replace those smoke alarms every 10 years. And if you're really up on it, you're going to make sure that those smoke alarms are interconnected. So that if a fire starts in the basement and somebody's on the 2nd floor, the furthest remote area away from the building, is that alarm will sound on that 2nd floor and they have a chance to get out. The next phase, part 3 of this equation, is to have an evacuation plan. And a plan that someone practices all of the time. If you have little ones, sit down at the kitchen table or whatever table that you use in your house for sitting down with the family, and draw out the house. Every room should have 2 escape routes established with that. If you do that, you got yourself a pretty good chance. Now take the children, put them in on a bed, right about this time, maybe a little bit later, just as it's getting dark. Close their eyes, let them just lay there for a little bit, but they know they're going to be doing a drill. Set off that alarm. Set off the alarm and have them go through the whole thing, meet outside at a meeting place so that they know exactly what they have to do in an emergency. Do this several times, and then try it again about a month later. Make sure they understand that they know what that sound of that alarm is. There have been studies done that children don't wake up to smoke alarms because they reach a certain stage of REM in their sleep, and it happens that way. But adults don't wake up either if they're on medication, if they have had alcohol, if they're too tired because they've been working all day or whatever the case might be. There are other people that don't respond to smoke alarms. So it's very important that the sound of the alarm becomes so so ingrained that when it sounds that there is a rote response to it. The last thing is fire sprinklers. We introduced fire sprinklers into the element here, and we've reduced our opportunities of death by fire by 87%. That's quite a bit. Whereas before, when we didn't have them, there was many more people dying. We're down to about 4,000 people a year that die in fires. 81% of the people that die in fires die in their homes, where they feel the safest. When they go to Disney World, when they go on vacation and get in hotels, they're more safer than they are in their own home, contrary to popular belief. And just like any other accident, most accidents happen in the home, and that's where most of the tragedies happen. But if we're in Disney World, everything there, including Goofy's doghouse, has got fire sprinklers in it. So you're safer there than you are at home. Now I want to throw another element at you, and that's the fact that when you watch this fire grow in intensity here in a couple minutes, the cubicle on your right and my left is protected with fire sprinklers. There's 2 of them in there. And when the fire gets up there, I'm going to guess only one of them is going to go off. Not both of them. But there's a chance it might if the fire gets real intense real quickly. But more likely, only one of them is going to go off. Contrary to what you see in the movies. Contrary to what you see in commercials as well. If any, I see some little children here. If you saw the movie Chicken Little, he got all upset that he pulled the alarm and all the sprinklers went off in the gymnasium. Doesn't happen that way. All right. So on this other side here, we don't have protection in there. We've got smoke alarms in both rooms. I want you to listen. When the fire starts, you're going to hear smoke alarms go off in both rooms. If we can get over to the fire engineer. You will notice at some point in time, both alarms will quit sounding. There's a reason for that. In this room over here, the wires in there are going to get so hot that they're going to fuse, and they're not. And the smoke alarm is going to be out of service. On this side here, the smoke is not going to be coming out of the fire. That's going to make that alarm go off. The alarm is going to go off in the sprinkler room and stop because the smoke isn't dangerous anymore. That's important to understand because when you introduce water onto a fire very early, you've got a situation that the toxic fumes and gases that get into our bloodstream that rob us of our oxygen that we need to survive is taken away. Now, we're going to get this fire started here. Go ahead, guys. Let me get this clock set up back here. I want you to watch this clock as it's going to be right at midnight here. Okay, guys. Yep. Yep. Okay. The fire is starting right now. This is what's called moment zero in a fire scenario. At moment zero, not everybody understands that fire started. In 10 seconds, we've got an alarm that went off over here. The alarm's gone off over here too. This sprinkler is going to go off at 100. When it reaches 155 degrees, the sprinkler is going to go off and it's going to put water on the fire. At moment zero, if we've already got, there were 30 seconds and the sprinkler went off. Now I have to tell you, the sprinkler is located pretty close to the fire, but if it had been in the middle of the room, it would have gone off a couple seconds later. There are 2 sprinklers in here, and only one of them is activated. Now this fire here is building up in intensity, and at this point in time, you may be woken up by that smoke alarm, and you have to respond to it. The fire department has been notified yet. You have the total intervention time. When a fire gets going, you have 15 minutes before this bail of this nozzle gets opened up and puts water in that fire. And again, when we're talking about the green opportunities here, look at the toxins that are coming through here. When this fire gets rolling and we reach a time called flashover, watch the counts in the chairs at this point. You'll look at it, you will see what looks like steam coming up out of there, or smoke. It's actually toxic gases, and before long, it's going to reach what we call flashover. Guys, you might want to get on the line here. We have got the Alaska Fire Department here. These guys are trained. These guys are professionals. They know what they're doing. They're going in. You see right here, that steam that's on there? We're going to have to get closer here, guys, because it's going to happen real quick. That is going to flash over. Those are toxic gases. They're very flammable. And you can see here, you can see where we reached right now is what we call flashover. In flashover, these guys cannot exist in that room. They cannot survive. And you can see that this fire is going to look to go upward. It's going to try to find the least path of resistance. On the other side, okay, fellas, you can put it out. I think the effect is being made here. But you have toxic fume and gases. Look at what's going up and contaminated in our atmosphere. What you got going on inside here is a fire that ultimately there's going to be runoff waters that's going to get in our sewer system, into our groundwaters. When this is all said and done, this is going to go to a landfill. If anybody saw the news this morning, they saw what happened in Madison at the frat house down there. Fortunately, everybody got out. I had a chance to see that house this morning. I talked to the first responding guy that was there. We have a camper burning for children. He is our camp director. And those guys got out of there quick. They were in that building for less than 13 minutes and had to get out. And they got there quick. It doesn't take long. The crew that's here, again, you have to understand and respect what firefighters are doing for you and your community. They may not have fires 24 hours a day, but when they do, you're going to count on them. If you have early warning and you respond quickly by calling 911 and getting the crew there, you have a better chance of saving your building. What you witnessed here was flashover. Years ago, flashover occurred in about 17 minutes. It now takes approximately 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And the reason for that, what you see is made in, what the furniture that's made in here is out of the same materials that they're paying now about $127 a barrel for. And what we're paying, I saw down in Madison, $405 at the pump. It's the same material. In essence, what you had in natural fibers in the building are not there anymore. You now have gasoline in your buildings. That's the reason you want to get water on it as quickly as possible. And as we look at it, we're less than 5 minutes here, but I can tell you that had this fire happened in real life, this crew would have been just rolling out of the barn and heading down the street. And had they been on the east side of town here, who knows how far that fire would have gone. Now the other aspect of this is with lightweight construction, as we had mentioned earlier. It's very sound and it works real good. But as soon as you start putting heat on it, it gets challenged. We've got truss construction in our roof areas, and we have got TJIs for our floor construction, for our joist and that breaks down very quickly in a fire. Now the guys are going in there, it wetted down, it looks like the sprinkler even put out the fire there. It doesn't always happen, but it does get it wet and it does keep it from going out. I know that you were looking in here and you might have saw some gray smoke in there, and that was, a lot of it was from the fire, from the paper that we used to start the fire. We just used paper in there. We didn't use any accelerant other than what the furniture is made out of. And you see the difference, and that's what 5 minutes can make. Now you put this into your home in a situation, and that's why you want to make sure that you practice fire prevention every day of the year. Get your children to understand that they shouldn't be playing with matches, that you shouldn't have candles that are unattended. If you have candles, make sure you have a saucer underneath it that's pretty well contained. If you leave the room, blow the candle out. You have to make sure that you practice fire safety, or else you will have to deal with this kind of situation here. If anybody has any questions, I'd like to answer them. But before I do, I want to congratulate the Onalaska Fire Department for having the wherewithal to say this is something that we want to educate our community. And it's something that our community should think about. They're not looking to get out of work, I can tell you that, because there's enough existing buildings in this town. You've got the highway here, you get hazardous materials that run down that highway. These guys got plenty to worry about. If they can eliminate fires and the tragedies of having to pull somebody out of a building, because there's nothing as bad as that, to have to go in and retrieve a victim in a fire. And being a former firefighter, I've had that opportunity, had the opportunity of burying fellow firefighters as well. And that's not something that you want to do. It's not something you want to have be an opportunity to happen in the community. So I want to thank you for your attention. Hopefully there was an impression made here tonight. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. after we're done here. Thanks again, and congratulations to the chief and to the gang here that put out this fire. You can see that they know what they're doing, and that's important for you to know, especially if you're on the other end. Thank you.